Hello, this is Aaron Koopman from Collinear Group, talking to you about the certification journey and how Collinear Group can help. In this phase, we're going to talk about the FAA regulations and how you build requirements to meet those. You've got all your regulations identified from our previous phase, but now you have to figure out how you're going to show compliance to those regulations. As the applicant, you show compliance to the FAA, and the FAA finds compliance with your design. So what does this phase look like? Well, you know your product needs to show compliance to be designed to perform its intended function, but you don't know if you do that by test, design, analysis, what kind of test. There's also compliance by similarity that can be used. Also, maybe you have well-informed ideas about how you're going to show compliance, but you don't have agreement with the FAA on your proposal, and they may disagree on how to show compliance. Also, in this phase, maybe you have some agreements with the FAA, but you can't reach agreement on some of the more important elements. So what are some of the challenges in this phase? Well, one of them is that a single part could require several FAA specialists to approve all the regulations for even a simple product. Something as easy as a valve requires a system specialist, structural specialist, materials specialist, and maybe even a software specialist, depending on the design. This step can be overwhelming. If you have a complex product that has a number of systems, how do you divide those systems? Conquer all the pieces, components, systems for each of the regulation specialists are required. There can be quite a bit to deal with. If you have software, is software its own system, or is it divided up within the components that it interfaces with? So another challenge is even if you have a simple product, how do you know how it interfaces with the air vehicle that you're going to install it in? And what are those interrelationships? So how can Collinear help? Well, we've been part of many large and small type certificate projects, from modifications to parts to modifications to aircraft, and what is sometimes called a supplemental type certificate, or STC. We've navigated the divide and conquer questions of how to identify all the parts, all the different regulations, all the elements of showing compliance for all the specialists that need to approve those methods of compliance. And this can be quite a large mega matrix of elements. So for the Wright brothers, how would this step help them in their journey to certification? Would they have quit developing flight? Probably not. Again, FAA regulations don't impede development. They just help inform you what's required for commercialization. But if they were serious about commercial flight and built plans to show compliance to the different regulations, they would have some very valuable intellectual property indeed. Also, the early airplanes weren't very complicated, so the matrix of tests and analyses would not be as nearly as complex as you would get today. They had no electrical systems, no hydraulics, no software, no autopilot, no landing gear. And if they had a path to commercialization that nobody else had, they would have a very strong first mover advantage. This is another way that Collinear can help you along your path to certification, so you understand what will be required in terms of cost, resources, and schedule. I look forward to seeing you again for our next episode. Thank you.